Alrighty, we are live. Hello. So just whilst we're setting up there, I am not associated with the following website, but I highly recommend it. On my course, I quite regularly recommend a website called BrainSync, and I would still recommend it. I think it's very good, BrainSync, if you're looking for binaural beats and meditations with binaural beats. For those that don't know what binaural beats are, by the way, they are a particular brainwave enhancing technology. It's called entrainment, where with binaural beats, the sound that comes into each ear is different. The brainwave then creates a brainwave, or rather the brain creates a brainwave pattern to deal with the different sounds. That's probably a terrible explanation, but the point is, by listening to binaural beats, you can create certain brainwave states. When you add binaural beats to a meditation, you get this incredibly enhanced effect. When you are doing SOMA breath, for example, you also have isochronic tones in the background. The only difference between isochronic tones and binaural beats are that binaural beats you have to listen to with headphones because they're you need the stereo effect of the different sounds in each ear. Isochronic tones you can listen to on speakers. So BrainSync I do recommend, but I also recommend binauralbeatsmeditation.com. Do check them out. They, as I said, I'm not associated or affiliated with this organization. I only recently came across it thanks to somebody on my course who recommended it. And to those in the know, the particular binaural beats and meditations that they're creating, but the binaural beats in particular have much better technology behind it. And I listened to one earlier today called Creativity Boost. And wow, that really gave me quite a sensation throughout the body. So I should really look at you, shouldn't I? So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's got a whole load of different binaural beat tracks, some for deep sleep, some for creativity. Like I said, there's even a flow state one. I was just listening to it there. Thank you, Floor B. Thank you for all the info you've shared. No problem. I've learned a lot of new stuff from your channel, in which case I really appreciate you being here. I also appreciate the comments, so thank you very much. Do fire in with any questions. That's to you, Floor B, or anybody else, really. And the subject that we're discussing today is breath work. So we're being a little bit more specific than the other Q&As where I just said, ask me anything. I'm now drilling it down to something a little bit more specific, but obviously not too narrow, because we're going to look at breath work, also flow. Now, when I talk about flow, I'm talking about how to get your life in flow. In other words, in sync, where everything starts to go your way. And then we're also going to talk about flow states and how to activate those. And also, you may want to chuck up any questions to do with anxiety or stress and dealing with that. So the floor is open. Any questions? Do fire away. I'm ready. So just whilst those questions start to come in, about 10 minutes ago, I finished my Wednesday session, which comes now part of the membership options I now have on my website. So with the membership, by the way, when you sign up to that, the monthly membership, you get a live session every week, which is part breath work, part discussion and knowledge gain to do with various different techniques, flow techniques, flow state inducing techniques. Flora, I see you've got a question. I'll come back to that in a second. And you also get emails, inspirational emails, at least twice a week, depending on your membership option. You also get a private group in which what I'm hoping is that this group is going to further grow, where everybody's encouraging each other and we work as a team to further grow and develop. And also I start chucking in more ideas, more techniques. The whole idea of this membership is to get you from where you are right now to the point where you are totally optimized, or at least as much as possible, and that you've got the tools to deal with things like stress, anxiety, low energy, etc., etc. So there's loads of options in there. Check out my website, and I'll drop a link in the description below later. So, question from Floor B. Thank you for that. I'm a healthy person, but it's difficult for me to do the retention. Are you talking about the breath hold retention? I'm assuming you are. And I'm probably assuming you're talking about the exhale breath retention. And yeah, it depends how long you've been doing it, Floor. I'm going to call you Floor. I don't know what your real name is, but let's call you Floor. It depends how long you've been doing it, because it takes time to further develop that retention bit. But I would also say, don't worry too much about that. One of the things that I quite regularly see on things like the Wim Hof Facebook groups or chat groups to do with breath work is that people focus, in my opinion, far too much on how long they can hold their breath for and that exhale breath retention. Florencia, isn't that wonderful that you were the first person here? My name is David Florence. There's a beautiful connection there, Florencia. I like it, from Buenos Aires. Very nice. So yeah, don't focus on this. Focus instead on the benefits that you're getting from the exhale breath hold, breath retention alone. Doesn't matter how long you do it for. If you do it every day and not too much, say 2 rounds a day, maybe 3 rounds a day, that exhale breath retention will increase. But don't focus on it. I think what happens is that our analytical minds kick in. And this is where on those chat groups, I hear people talking about, oh, I can only do a minute, I can only do 2 minutes. And some people, saying, oh, I can only do 3. When they're saying that, they're really just saying, look at me, I can do 3 minutes. But obviously there's lots of people that can do 4, 5, etc., etc. But it doesn't matter how long you can do it for. I don't do it for very long. And it's not a problem. Just doing that bit, which is the intermittent hypoxia bit, is benefiting you physically, psychologically. If you force it, you lose some of the benefits. If you focus your analytical mind on that length of breath hold, you're missing some of the bits. So it is, in my opinion, better instead to focus on the sensation, focus on the inner physiology, your inner physiology. So when you're, and I'm kind of reminding myself, I'm getting into that state now. So you've done the inhale, exhale. You've been hyperventilating for a period of time. You're then inhaling all the way, exhaling. And as you exhale, it's always good to exhale with a sigh. What that does is it saying to your brain, okay, now it's time for some parasympathetic slowing down. I want to feel more relaxed. That's what you're saying to your brain by sighing. And then you smoothly enter that exhale breath hold phase. And then instead of hitting your stopwatch, instead of counting, just enjoy the moment of stillness. Enjoy the moment of meditative feelings. That's what this is, really. That bit of the breath work is a beautiful meditation. Now, if you're listening to it guided, you may have some other voices in the background. But if you've been doing it for a while, you don't need to listen to it guided necessarily. There are benefits to doing it sometimes, but you don't always have to do it. So just enjoy that moment, because it's such a beautiful moment of stillness and it brings you into the present moment. So it's far better to focus on the sensations you're feeling. Imagine also, something I do is I say focus on a sensation, and then I'll move that sensation around my body so I've got control of the energy. So give those options a go. There'll be more of these Q&A lives as we go. So do come back to me and let me know how all of that goes. Your English, by the way, is a million times better than my Spanish. So is it better? This is from George Roberts. Hello, George. Is it better to stick to one technique or just do loads of different ones? Breath by Brule has literally loads, and thinking about it is confusing. Yeah, so if it's confusing, don't do that many. I think the point here is when it comes to breath work, you are creating your own path. This is your path, there's nobody else's. What you're doing is you're gaining knowledge from people like me, from him, from all the other experts that do breath work. And you're taking what you want out of it. It is better to start understanding what the breath work is doing. Don't just do it for the sake of doing it. Start to understand the benefits of what breath work can do. So understand what's going on. Remember, every time you inhale, even right now, every time you inhale, you're increasing your heart rate, increasing your blood pressure. Every time you exhale, there's a slight decrease in heart rate, decrease in blood pressure. This is the autonomic nervous system working correctly and in a comfortable fashion. So it makes sense when you extend the exhale, for example, you're activating more of the parasympathetic response. You're slowing down heart rate, slowing down blood pressure. You're calming the body. That's one thing to remind yourself of. The more breath work you're doing, especially the SOMA breath type or Wim Hof method, you're increasing your tolerance to higher levels of CO2. This has a dramatic effect on the body. Increased CO2 calms the body, but also your tolerance to increased CO2 has a correlation to how tolerant you are to stress, anxiety, etc., etc. That's why breathwork is such a wonderful thing to do to improve and enhance your ability to deal with stress and anxiety. However, it's worth pointing this out. If right now, and I've had people on my memberships in the Wednesday sessions that have said, I'm not feeling good right now. I feel like I've got high stress. And then they talk about doing the Wim Hof method. And that's when I will always say, don't do the Wim Hof method. Don't do SOMA breath when you're feeling those those heightened sensations of stress, anxiety. It seems a bit silly to label Wim Hof method as if that's one kind of breath work. I suppose it is really with the Wim Hof method. It is quite narrow. With SOMA breath, it's far wider. The great thing about SOMA breath is that they teach you, yes, that pranayama breath work that is very similar to the Wim Hof method, but they also teach you a whole load of other stuff that is far better when you're feeling anxious or stressed. So when you're feeling anxious and stressed, if you think about it, doing that hyperventilating, which is very sympathetic led, it's very, fight flight led, that can exacerbate your condition. So be careful. Be careful when you're feeling anxiety and stress. Aim more for slowing down your breath, aiming for that kind of Buteyko style, conscious breathing style. Slow down your breathing. In fact, that's what we were just doing there in the session a minute ago. Slowing it down, deliberately slowing it down. And you focus on the sensation, slow on the inhale, feel the cool air moving moving in, the warm air moving out. Focus on the sensation of your belly moving, and you're just deliberately slowing it down. And you're also then deliberately getting to the point where your breath is more shallow. So that's a much better technique to work on, to focus on when you're stressed or anxious than anything else. So George, I hope that helps. Yeah, remember, this is just your journey. It's nobody else's. Get the knowledge from everybody you find on YouTube, anywhere, any other source, then start deciding what works for you. But don't go overboard. Don't chuck everything at your brain and body. But this sounds like I'm contradicting myself here. Because it's your journey, it's your path, you have to experiment. You've got to figure this stuff out for yourself. And once you get to the point where you've got a few different techniques that work, then start mixing them up and playing around with them and trying one thing with another, because that's what helps to make all of this stick. It's the experimentation. In fact, that's kind of what you apply to life in general, isn't it? Being playful is what I talk about on my course a lot, and Flow Code talk a lot about this, that when you develop that awe mindset, when you're being far more playful with life, then life becomes far more interesting, exciting. Your memory works better. So, 2 days ago, if somebody asks you now, what did you do 2 days ago, you'll remember it, because you're not following that same routine, that the conscious routine that we're led by when we're committed by work, by family, by other commitments. So I hope that makes sense, George. It's a really good question, and I think it's something with so much out there right now. it's hard to decide what to do and when. So dial it all back. Figure out what you're currently doing that you enjoy doing, that works. Just do that for a period of time. Don't go overboard, especially with the Wim Hof method, with the SOMA breath. You don't want to do too many rounds a day. And if you are doing the Wim Hof method and SOMA breath, make sure you've got something to counter it. So look at that slower stuff. Look at the, going for a walk, slowing down your breathing, etc. Tim, hello, Tim Newman. I have been doing Wim Hof for about a year. Cold showers seem pretty easy now. They should do, that's good. Is there a certain length of time I should be aiming for, or should I try something else? Yeah, so when it comes to the cold showers, obviously as we enter winter, they become a little bit more challenging, but that becomes more exciting as far as I'm concerned. And you, therefore, Tim, also aimed for doing hose, pouring that over you. That's a really nice place to go because you're outside. If you've got a nice garden, even if you haven't, it doesn't matter. But when you're outside, you grab the hose. There's something, some of the stuff that I do, I almost feel like I'm entering the Neanderthal that's somewhere inside me. I'm invoking that kind of Neanderthal, or I'm invoking a kind of a warrior. And I think the more we experience some of this stuff outside, the more you get those feelings. And part of it, of course, is when you're outside, there is this connection. If you imagine, the reason why I love doing that stuff outside, we know already when, as a human, you are next to water, there's something wonderful that happens. There is a connection. But that is also true of being in nature, especially barefoot. So we know also that when you've spent time in nature or outside for a period of time, and there isn't any technology around, because you are an electromagnetic being, your body is made up of water, so therefore you are electromagnetic. The earth is also electromagnetic. There is this connection that occurs between the two, both human and earth. When you are out there for a period of time, this wonderful connection occurs between the frequency of the earth and your natural brainwave frequency between theta and alpha. They are both exactly the same, 7.8 hertz. So just imagine then, you've been out there for a little bit, you then grab the garden hose, you pour that over you as well, you're going to get heightened sensations. So Tim, if you haven't done that yet, definitely do that. And obviously, if you haven't done any ice stuff, start playing around in the ice. Get some ice bags, chuck them in the bath, give that a go. Definitely a good place to go. When it comes to length of time in the shower, if you're in there for 4 or 5 minutes, brilliant. If you can stay in a little bit longer, great, but don't worry about it. 4 or 5 minutes is enough. That's fine. And then mix it up with some cold showers, mix it up with the garden hose. The neighbors love it when you get the garden hose out, let's face it. So do it for them, for their sake. Watching from Scotland, good man or woman. I don't know if you're a man or woman, so good man stroke woman. Thank you. Patrick, I think, yeah, well done. Patrick, you're saying to Tim, it's time to go to the Arctic and sit in the ice water. Absolutely. Yeah. You don't have to go to the Arctic, but obviously, yes, start getting used to the ice. The wonderful thing actually that occurs when you do start entering the ice and playing around with that is initially when you get in, your brain is saying, get out. But it doesn't last for very long. You enter it slowly and carefully, or you can do it the other way, up to you. There might be more water remaining in the bath if you do it slowly and carefully. And what you do is you focus on the breath and really slow it down. That will greatly help. And it won't take long before the body gets so used to it that actually your body temperature, the core temperature, warms up and you can stay in the ice bath for quite some time. Obviously, never force this stuff. It's the same with breath work. It's the same with much in life. Don't force it. But you'll know when it's time to get out of an ice bath. If it's your first go, maybe it's just a couple of minutes. But to be honest, after a very short space of time, you'll be in there for 10 minutes and it will feel good. So yeah, definitely get used to that. You'll love that. Lloyd, I have been doing the Wim Hof now for 2 months. Good man. Cold showers and breathing, and I have to say it's nothing short of a miracle what it's done for my mental health. Well done. Good work. Yeah. So it's exactly what I noticed. So bearing in mind, end of 2017, I had the bang to the head, and I consciously decided, right, it's time to do something about my life. I want to improve and enhance my physical and mental health. And as you know, it was the Wim Hof method that I jumped into first. It was the winter, and I actually wanted to feel the pain. I know it sounds a bit sado. It's not. I just wanted to feel something to shake me out of the state that I was in. And yeah, it exactly, well said. You feel stronger because of it. Yeah, and that's exactly what I do. And there was something about that shocked the system, that felt good. And after a while, there were often moments initially where I was determined, I was committed to do it every day. Especially in the winter, I wanted the cold. I wanted the hose outside in the garden in the winter. I wanted it, I wanted it quite badly. But there were days where I'd wake up in the morning and my brain would say, you don't need to do it today, forget it. And then I would consciously, say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not listening to that message, I'm going out there. And that developed this resilience. It developed this discipline that then reflected in other parts of my life. So again, I highly recommend doing it for that reason, not just for that reason, but that is one of the reasons that it greatly helps. And what have you put? Thanks for the videos. Been doing this every morning before work. Gives me so much energy. Brilliant. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It just makes you feel damn good. And I think we're all allowed to every now and again, if you drink far too much alcohol the night before, the Wim Hof method, when you do the cold shower and the breath work, is an amazing hangover cure. So I highly recommend that. Now, what have we got? I had a massive panic attack. This is Lloyd, and couldn't snap out of it. I was very skeptical about it, but so glad I kept at it. Brilliant. Yeah, so I had, during what I call the troubles, which was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, there was some stuff going on outside of my life, or in my life, but outside of the stuff that you see, that was fairly traumatic. And I had a couple of panic attacks, and one of them really knocked me for 6. And I remember, because bearing in mind, when you're in a panic attack, there's not much going on up here. You are totally in fight flight. That means the rational part of the brain isn't really working. You don't have access to the intelligent bit of the brain. So it's quite hard when you're in those moments to think of a solution. But I was going through my list. I was standing on my head. I was trying to meditate. Didn't work. No way. I tried to do a bit of yoga, didn't help. I tried to do some breath work, didn't help. And I was thinking, blimey, what on earth is going to help me? And then I thought, cold is always your friend. It's funny, a few years ago, I used to say vodka was always your friend when I had the moniker of Vodka Dave. But now I kind of view the cold as being my friend. And that was the thing that sorted out my panic attack. It was the only thing that could have worked for me. Outside, grab the hose, pour it over, changing my state completely, reactivated. Felt like I was being recharged again. I'd been plugged back in. It felt like, the battery had died. I needed energy. Cold shower, bosh, panic attack was over. Amazing, isn't it? And what's silly is that all of this is natural stuff that we would never have had to think about before. 200 years ago, 300 years ago, this was natural. This was real. This was life, how we existed. That's kind of what I teach now. Whenever I'm teaching people one-to-one or in groups, what I'm trying to teach really is to reverse a lot of our conditioning, reverse our thinking around how to live your life comfortably and happily. And part of it is to go back to those old ways, nutritionally, but also physically, reduce the chemical load on our bodies, reduce the technical load on our bodies, reduce the commitments that we have to work. Because I still think, when it comes to work, for example, most people could do their job 3 or 4 days a week or less hours per day. And I think gradually corporates are getting getting wind of this, because people, I think this brilliant thing has happened over the last couple of years. People are now waking up. They want to improve their physiology. They want to improve their immune system. They don't want to suffer the viruses that are around. And if they do catch those viruses, they want to know that their body can handle it. The only way you can do that is to optimize brain and body by doing things like cold showers, breath work, meditation, mindful practice, going for a walk, exercise, making sure you're moving regularly. All those kinds of things are the only thing that are going to optimize our brain and body, so that when we're never going to be at a point where we can stop those viruses from entering our body. I stupidly thought when I was doing the Wim Hof method, when I was evangelizing about it to all my friends and family, that was it. My immune system was totally boosted, that nothing could knock me down. But of course it does. It's impossible to have it totally tip top all the time. But the point is, you just want your immune system to work properly, so that when you do get a virus, it can deal with it, get it out of you quickly. You might suffer for a little bit. You're not going to suffer though and end up in hospital like a lot of people. That is key to all of this now. That's what's happened in the last couple of years. People are waking up to this. They want to improve their health. So that's why conversations like this, I think, are hugely important. That's why you lot that are clearly here for a blooming good reason, that are doing something about your life, you're recreating your path of existence. You're stepping off of that well-trodden path that seems safe, that seems right, and you're beginning to question. And as you question, this new path will open up. And it will come with risks attached, and it will come with fear. The more you fight that in a conscious way, and build in these healthy habits, psychological habits, and physical habits, the more you'll stay on that path. Good things will happen. Anyway, I do often one, don't I? Wim Hof says to, let me just make sure right. My tube 2, for someone who has MS, what would you recommend as regards to breathing to heal? I'm very familiar with Wim Hof and do that as well as swim and use the cold daily. Such a tricky one, that one, because, and I should add here, because from a legislative perspective, I always have to say I am not a doctor. I'm not medically trained. So this is my opinion only. I think when it comes to MS, the kind of advice that people give, we have to be very difficult, because I think everybody is different. I think for things like the Wim Hof method, the breathing in particular, I think you need to be fairly careful with it. The cold therapy, I think theoretically, that is a good go-to. I think you swimming and getting used to that is going to be a good go-to. I think when you look at the great thing about the Wim Hof method website is that you've got loads of testimonials of people that have got a variety of different conditions, Lyme disease, various other things. And this kind of playing around in the cold breathing has greatly helped them. Let me think about if there's anything else that I think might be worth you considering, my tube, because that's a hard one to ask, a hard one to answer for me. Yeah, the cold is like a mirror. You've put another comment there, and you're right, it is like a mirror. The more you develop this resilience to the cold, you're also developing a resilience elsewhere in your body, psychologically, physiologically. Sorry, my dog is. What's up? What's up, Wim? So Patrick, Wim Hof says to slow down your heartbeat during the breathing exercises. Have you been able to slow your heart rate down? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's lots of things that you can do. Once you start really practicing this stuff, the more you get in touch with your inner body, your inner physiology, the more you understand the messages that are coming from it, and the more you have access to things like your heart rate. Just simply exhaling really slowly. Yeah, there's lots of things that you can do to slow down your heart rate. Now, hopefully you can all see me and hear me, but it just said my connection is unstable. Hopefully we are still running happy and good. Right, what else have we got? So yes, high anxiety. You do the Wim Hof breath work, you slow breath work, yoga nidra seem to help with being calm. Yeah, okay, fine. Some more suggestions for you. When you've got high health anxiety, again, be very careful with the Wim Hof method. If you think about it, the Wim Hof method is sympathetic. It's activating the fight flight a lot. And yes, it's got the exhale breath hold in there. It's doing some wonderful things to your brain and your body. But actually, I think for somebody like you, you do need to be careful with the Wim Hof method. It could further exacerbate the condition you have. So I don't think it's necessarily the right thing for you to do. You're far better off sticking to the yoga, doing the yoga nidra, looking at other types of breath work, buteyko, conscious breathing, slowing it down, the really parasympathetic styles of breath work. Do some Om. So what you could do is stick some calming music on, and we're going to come back to the sound stuff in a minute. Stick the calming music on, but stuff without a beat. And just consciously really breathe nice and slowly and focus on the sensations. Cold air as it enters the nose, warm air exit. So again, focusing on the sensations, any feelings around your body, being aware of how the movement of your stomach as it moves out, the rib cage as it moves slightly. So in other words, that kind of stuff where you're focusing on your senses, how you breathe, etc., etc. And then what you could do is slowly inhale all the way through the nose and then Om. And by that, I mean really break down the sound of an Om by going and every one of those sections, the you should be able to feel in the stomach. The you should be able to feel it in the chest. And the should resonate in your brain. So by focusing on that, that will be a nice vagus nerve, activation. You'll be stimulating the vagus nerve. That has a calming effect on the body. Really good for your health. That could be something to look at. Something else I would highly recommend would be for you to look into some binaural beats. And I was saying at the beginning of this that normally I recommend BrainSync, and I still do recommend BrainSync, and it's backed by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And it has Kelly Howell providing the meditations on there. But I've also now come across another one called binauralbeatsmeditation.com, which is even better. I've tried a couple of the tracks from there, one called Creativity or Boost Creativity. It's incredible. I had some wonderful sensations on the body. They've got some really good stuff to do with deep sleep, for calming, relaxation. So Andrea, I would highly recommend that you look at those. They would be good things for you to focus on. They've got a wonderful effect and response on the body, listening to binaural beats. And that's BINAURAL, binaural beats. If you're not already doing that, do check that stuff out. And in fact, Tom's mentioning here Tai Chi and Qigong helps in addition to breathing techniques that Dave shows. I agree, Tom. And actually, Tom, if you think about it, I don't know if you've seen the, and this would be good for you as well, Andrea, the 108 breaths. That is very Qigong-like, which is where you especially do it in woods. You take a bit of a semi-horse stance, and then you're really drawing up energy from nature as you're breathing it in all the way, and then you're moving it out, and then you're taking another breath of energy. And anyway, you do it 108 times. 108, as Tom I'm sure probably knows, that number in particular means something in Taoist culture as well as in India. Sorry, Winston is making funny noises. Yeah, definitely stuff to look at. And Andrea, actually, if you haven't looked at Tai Chi and Qigong, I would highly recommend you start looking at that as well. If you think about it, although it's labeled health anxiety, it is simply anxiety. Anxiety, we know there are many ways to dial that down, and it's all about slowing down the prefrontal cortex. There are many methods and techniques to try. And the more you slow down this anxiety, your monkey mind, chit chat, all that kind of stuff will dial down. but you've just got to be disciplined with it. When you wake up in the morning, it's how you set your day, set your intention. So instead of waking up doing your normal routine, wake up, sit there for a moment. And sometimes it's worth, if you're waking up and you're feeling these sensations and and then you start getting those thoughts, the negative introspection, worries, etc. Sometimes it is worth sitting up and just feeling those thoughts. In other words, not trying to suppress them, which is what I used to do. Not trying to, I used to say, shut up, go away, F off. That never works. All that does is just builds further up inside. What you've got to do instead is to feel it, accept it, be aware of it, have an awareness of it, take notice of the feeling. And by not suppressing or trying to push it away, eventually it just drifts off. Then another one will come in and you just say, yep, okay, got it. Yeah, I understand where that's coming from. Fine, no problem. And then it drifts off. So that's sometimes a good way of waking up and doing that. It's a good technique because then you get into a better state of mind to then do something like the 5 Tibetan rites or to do some breath work. And whilst you're doing the 5 Tibetan rites or doing some breath work, start working on your intention. In other words, okay, whilst I'm doing this, as I breathe in between each move, if I'm doing the 5 Tibetan rites, I'm also saying to myself, today, I'm going to flow through the day. I'm going to pour all of my attention and focus on talking positively to other human beings. I'm going to make sure I move my body. I'm going to make sure I breathe correctly. Set the intention so that you know how you want to flow through the day and get to the end of the day, ticking all the boxes, making sure that you get everything done. Lloyd, the anxiety after the massive panic attack I had was horrid. I thought I'm going to be stuck like this forever. Yeah, I've been there, which is a scary thought. Anxiety is practically gone. So glad I found out about it. Brilliant. Well done, Lloyd. Yeah. If anybody here hasn't had a panic attack to that level, it is horrible. And the great thing about it is once you've experienced it, it's a message. There's a bloody good reason why we have these experiences. And this is where you've got to wake up and you think, okay, that's happened for a reason. What in my life can I change that will help to prevent that from ever happening again? That is a message. That is one of the many messages that you're getting on a regular basis. It's just that up until that point, you hadn't been listening to the messages and it was building up. You weren't doing anything about it. All of this stuff that was building up, your sleep wasn't dealing with the moments that you collected throughout the day. It wasn't able to compartmentalize those actions and experiences into the hippocampus where it would store all of those memories quite happily. It wasn't turning those experiences into a dream. It wasn't turning it into a narrative. So you were only, as happened to me, you weren't dealing with the problem. And I'm one for still doing this sometimes. I have to retrain myself on a regular basis that I'm one for typically suppressing emotions. I'm not very good at showing my emotions, for example. I'm still learning that. And therefore I have a tendency, like a lot of men, to bottle stuff up. That doesn't help. It suppresses it. It makes it worse. Eventually it's going to explode. You're going to explode. That's when panic attacks occur. That's why regular, disciplined focus, attention on all of these practices every day. But you don't want to ever get to a point where these things feel like a chore. These are practices and techniques that you want to consider as being a part of your life, how you exist, how you move through life. And that's when you start to enjoy all of these practices because they become a part of you and they become a motor response. This is the kind of stuff I'm teaching people all the time, and why you need guidance initially, because you probably do need somebody to say, okay, right, well, if you've done that already this morning, now try this. And once you've tried that in an hour's time, now try this. And if you think about all of these different techniques, they don't have to be anything more than 2 or 3 minutes, some of them. But all of them, when combined, will have a huge effect on both psychology and physiology. Patrick Wim Hof says that E. coli didn't affect him when they injected in his arm. How does he activate his immune system to kill the E. coli? Yeah, I don't think he necessarily activates his immune system, because the immune system is activated whenever it experiences some kind of invasion anyway. I think this is where he's gotten to, bearing in mind, he's been doing this stuff since the 90s. He's got this incredible connection with his inner physiology. And I think what he's dealing with here is his connection to that inner physiology is so strong, just like, he's capable of moving stuff around his body, and he's probably capable of exiting stuff that he doesn't want in his body. Part of it will be the concentration on the breath. Probably if you watch the video of him doing this stuff, he's probably sat in a very, very calm state. He's breathing in a particular way. He's got his total focus on what it is inside of his body. I'm not at that level, of course, but I would suspect that's what's going on. I don't think he has a switch that activates it, because that just, any form of invading bacteria or any kind of toxicity that enters the body, the immune system just is activated anyway. I think what he's doing is doing something that works on a way of getting it out of the system through conscious thought. One of the things that we talk about SOMA breath actually is that you can consciously tell your body to activate or to help yourself heal, to help yourself produce more melatonin, for example, or other neurochemicals, by having this conscious connection with your body. You're almost kind of running a mantra in your mind, and that builds this connection. This all takes a long time to develop, by the way. This isn't something you can just switch on like that. But the more you practice this stuff and the more you build that connection, I think that's the key thing, actually. It's that connection where you think, okay, I understand a lot of what's going on now. I can actively tell my body to do the things that I want it to do. So this is kind of regular practice that we're talking about here. Thanks, Lloyd, for that statement about finding my videos. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Hi, Chantal. You're doing a great job, Dave. Thanks for all your videos. Thank you very much, from Belfast. Tom, do you recommend 4-4 as the most frequent exercise to incorporate every day with the breath, retention, hold? I'm assuming, Tom, you're talking then about SOMA breath or Wim Hof. 4-4 is really good at just developing a balance with your autonomic nervous system. Yes, that is a really good go-to. Doesn't have to be just when you're doing SOMA breath, though, or the Wim Hof method. Because with the Wim Hof method and the SOMA breath, quite often what you're looking at there is getting, if you're in an optimal healthy state, it's quite often about getting some heightened states, be that just high energy, or obviously if you're doing 5 rounds, we're talking real heightened states. So therefore, when you're doing those, it's not necessarily doing 4-4. You're doing 2-2. You're doing 1-1. You're incorporating various different techniques that further heighten those neurochemicals, and you reach those kind of DMT states. But yeah, 4-4 is one that I recommend everybody do throughout the day. In other words, if you're going for a walk, 4-4 is a really good one to focus on. To consciously slow down the walking pace, and then just breathe in for 4, and then out for 4, in for 4, out for 4. And by doing that, that I always have to close my eyes when I'm imagining this. You'll know that you're building this balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. You're building a balance with the autonomic nervous system. It's just a helpful way of kind of visualizing it. And you've got this cyclical movement of air as it's in for 4, out for 4, etc., etc. So it's just a great one to know and to do on a regular basis, not just whilst you're doing a particular type of breath work, but more just something to do as a part of how you exist. And especially doing that 4-4 when you do a slow walk and then you do a slow breath walk is a really good one to do. So when you're talking there, Tom, I'm assuming you're talking about Wim Hof and SOMA. because obviously you don't want to do too many breath retentions throughout the day, clearly. So I hope that answers your question. Do type in another question if I didn't quite answer that correctly. Yeah, how many rites do I do a day? I really mixed that up. So what Christian here is talking about is the 5 Tibetan rites. 21 is the maximum that people talk of doing, and that's what the Tibetans will have suggested that you do. I'm sure you could do more if you wanted to, but that would take you quite a while. So it depends. And what I find is that some of the movements I do more of than others, depending on how I feel every day. And so I suppose this is where we go back to the thing that I'm always talking about, that with all of this stuff, mix it up, play around with it. Don't be driven by protocol and dogma and prescription. Tom, you're talking about the flow code dolphin breaths. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll come back to you then in a second on that. Tom will know this because he's been on the course, but yeah, whenever you're looking at all of this stuff, SOMA breath, Wim Hof method, Buteyko, Stig Sverensson stuff, all these different techniques that are out there, they're all wonderful, brilliant techniques, methods. Once you've learned them, try then to move away from the prescription. In other words, whatever you were told to do, don't just do that. Play around with it, mix it up, try one thing with another, because that's how you're going to make this stuff stick. If you do exactly the same thing every day and a prescribed method every day, you're probably going to give up at some point, because your brain and your body and you will think, oh, this is a chore. And you'll start saying to yourself, I need to do this, I must do this, I should do this. Whenever you add those words to anything you're doing, people often associate those words with exercise. I should really go for a run. I mean, what's that really saying to you? You're basically saying, I don't want to go for a run. I know that I should. It's almost like you've got a voice of a gym instructor in your mind. So you've already told yourself that you don't really want to go. You've already associated it with being a chore. So that's why when doing breath work and anything like this, remove at some point, once you've understood what it is that you're doing, remove the prescribed idea, the dogma, the protocol, play around with it and mix it up. So just going back to you, Tom, so when we're talking about dolphin breaths, one of the things that I talk about and we do quite regularly on my course, and we'll probably do more of it actually on the membership stuff as well. And that's where you're inhaling slowly, and then you're holding your breath for about 25 seconds initially, and then you're exhaling really slowly. And then you have a period of maybe about a minute and a half, of normal breathing. So yes, Tom, in between that, do the 4-4. But also in between that, play around with Ujjayi breath. If people haven't come across Ujjayi is where I'm going to have to go in a minute because I think he probably needs to go outside. Ujjayi breath is where you're constricting the throat and you're increasing nitric oxide. It's a wonderful technique to learn. It is on my channel, Ujjayi Breath. It's a really short video, so do check that out. There's loads of benefits to it. It's antibacterial, antiviral. It's a wonderful technique to learn. And Colorado Sports Dude. Colorado, by the way, is a place I really want to go. This is always a wake-up call type of thing. When I listen to you, I need to truly begin my practices and settle down in life. Thank you. Awesome stuff. Oh, thank you. Really appreciate that comment. That puts a smile on my face. Thank you. You know, I think we get these wake-up calls. We get inspired by people online, and it seems really silly. I was chatting to somebody on a podcast the other day that it seems so silly that quite often we have to reach a point of hitting the bottom to do something about our life. You know, for me, it was the bang to the head. Really, we shouldn't need to get there. We kind of already know. Most of you here right now are probably aware that something's not quite right in your life. Is it your job? Is it your partner? You know, is there something that's not quite fitting? You probably know deep down. And rather than wait for a big wake-up call moment that gets you into, which acts as your call to action to do something about your life, Start questioning. One of the videos I did, I think it was last year around February time, and I said, right, make this month a month to question everything. Question the relationships you have, and also the relationship with yourself. How do you feel about yourself? Question the relationship you have with your job. Question the relationship you have with your health, your body. Start writing it all down. And make this month, right now, a time to question everything. And once you've got it written down, you'll have hopefully some real honest answers. That can be the start of your journey. Okay, so I don't feel too good about myself. Why is that? Question. What else is wrong? Why am I not happy with who I am? Is it connected to the job, relationship? One of the things I've done a video on previously is, you just need to get 3 things right in life. One of them is your relationship with your job. The other one is relationship with yourself, and the other one is relationship with others. Once you've got all those 3 things right, pretty much everything is going well. So that's simple things to start looking at and working on. Don't do what I did and wait until you hit rock bottom before you do something about this stuff. The great thing is that you're all here. So already I think your mind is in the right state. You're already listening to some of this stuff. Doesn't matter whether it all goes in or not. You're taking heed of some of it. You're getting inspired. So just choose one thing tomorrow morning that you're taking from this that you're going to do, and make sure that that becomes a part of who you are. Use habit stacking. And thanks, Tom, for the promo there. I really appreciate that statement. Use habit stacking. If you haven't come across that, read the book Atomic Habits. And if you don't want to read the book, I'll tell you what habit stacking is right now. It's one of the methods in that book. When you are when you are doing something healthy, be it brushing your teeth, having a shower, whatever it is that you do right now without any thought, it just happens every day, wake up and you do it. But you also know consciously that by doing it, it's good for you, be it brushing your teeth, having a shower, whatever. When you're doing that one thing, ask yourself, or rather make the following statement. After I've had this or done this, I will, and then add in whatever it is that you've wanted to do for some time, that you want to build into your life. Just add that as at the end of your statement, at the end of your mantra. After I've had a shower, I will do breath work. Or after I've done the Tibetan rites, I will do breath work. Whatever it is, whatever you're currently doing that is a part of you already, that you don't have to think about, that you're currently doing, that you know is healthy, that is good for you, just say to yourself, after I've done that, I'm going to do this. Because when you're doing that thing, your brain is in a state where it's malleable. It's already accepted that that thing that you're doing is good for you. So it's happy. So all you're saying to your brain is, yeah, okay, fine. Once you've done that, we'll just do this. So anyway, there we are. I ought to go because he's moaning. I hope all of that was helpful. Thank you for being here. I'll drop a link below for the new memberships that I've got on my website. And of course, as Tom said, there is the Evolutionary Flow course as well. The next one will probably be in a couple of weeks' time. I'll put a date for that up. 10 days, live sessions every day, lots of stuff to learn. The memberships will help drill all of this stuff in. The memberships are designed, as I said at the beginning of this, to make sure all of this sticks so that you then create the new path and you stay on that new path. Whew. Alrighty. Guys, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I love doing this kind of stuff. Hopefully you now see that I'm somewhat better lit. Unlike last time where I really was in the dark. Anyway, TTFA. Goodbye for now. Thank you.